week's episode of Parasyte the Maxim is gonna put a big toothy grin on your face, because Shinichi and Migi meet a brand new ally in the form of Uda and his very own Parasyte, which has taken control of his lower jaw. This week's episode was a pleasant surprise. It's really cool to know that there's going to be other humans in the Parasyte world who've been in the same predicament as Shinichi, where one of these creatures has tried to take over their brain, but instead was forced to take control of another part of their body. And just the fact that this guy's mouth has been taken over leads to a lot of really funny animation moments. And I'd say that this is one of the better animated episodes of the series, if only just through all the weird, wacky transformations that both Parasyte and Migi go through in this week's episode. In particular, that one sequence where Migi was explaining he can now separate multiple portions of his body, just the way that looked, how he was literally dripping apart from himself into little smaller versions, and then when they finally all assimilated back, that looked so creepy and disgusting and beautiful at the same time. And this is also really important because he's also explaining that when he was helping out Shinichi, he sort of passed on parts of himself into his body. So that means there's actually these little tiny parasitic Migis just hanging around in Shinichi's body, getting ready to take over his brain, but apparently they have no consciousness, so there's nothing to worry about. However, it is just kind of creepy, but it is cool because Shinichi basically has superpowers now. There's a scene this week when he gets a call from Uda, who's now his buddy. He's going to tell him whenever there's an evil parasite nearby. He starts running past this car and through the path, and he is just hauling ass. And then eventually he does catch up with Uda, who's actually being attacked by Shinichi's mom, who's been taken over by a parasite. And this scene is really tense because as soon as he's getting ready to battle, Migi says that he has to sleep. And this pissed me off so much, but at least Migi was able to leave behind this massive blade hand, which looks hilarious and badass at the same time, but this is also sort of like a turning point episode, I think, for Shinichi's character, because when he finally does get to his mom, Uda has been practically defeated. It looks like his heart has been ripped out, and this is when he decides to fight, and this fight is really intense and creepy, and it's also just badass because, one, his mother's just animation looks so nasty. The multiple eyeballs, the sideways talking mouth, the whipping tentacles, it's all well done. Just like when she falls over, she lifts herself up with the tentacles. It's little details like that that make this whole fight just really interesting and gross. And Shinichi looks like he's about to finish her off when suddenly Uda appears out of nowhere and cuts her head off, finishing her off. And he basically does this because he's like, well, you know, you knew she wasn't your mom, but still, I feel that you still shouldn't have been the one to do it. And then he's basically the hero at that point. Or actually, his weird talking jaw is. But still, there it is. It looks like he's saved because his parasite has the ability to move his body parts around. So actually, he was able to dodge that attack. And that's pretty funny because it almost seemed like at first that his parasite was not going to be as capable as Migi is, but even by the end of the episode, you can see he's pretty competent. But the personalities of both Migi and Uda's parasite are just night and day different. Just what I love most is they really do fit the personalities kind of perfectly, though. I mean, like, because Uda's just a real big, goofy, sad sack crybaby character whose wife left him, and then he gets these weird, ridiculous superpowers, and I love how he was saved by his parasite, where he fell in the water after being attacked by it, and then it literally created this massive snorkel which had to reach up into the sky just so that it could bring life back to him. I just thought that was really creative. That's my favorite thing about this series, though, is how they animate those parasites. It looks so creepy. One thing that I am kind of shocked about is that one girl, Maki, did not get killed. I was like convinced that she was going to get involved in one of the battles here and then she was going to get hurt or something, and that didn't happen at all. It was basically just her coming on really strong to Shinichi, and he basically just decides to leave the hospital with his father. They have a nice, tender father-son moment. In the end of the episode, we get to see that he's finally returning home, and both Kana and Murano actually notice that he is coming back, and he even has a brand new, more confident-looking look. So there it is, a fantastic episode of Parasyte the Maxim. What's the rundown on this week's episode? You know I loved it. It was great. It was a good episode because of the mixture of elements to it. I love how it sort of opened up with a fake out when you're expecting this big battle to take place, and then it's this goofy talking jaw with multiple eyes, which had fantastic animation, the way it moved around, how it stretched out and became his chin, and just all the weird movements. And I love how they talk about how Migi was sort of raised on reading books and looking at the internet, and Uda's Parasyte was raised off of watching TV and movies, and his personality reflects that. He's a lot more goofy, laid back, and even seems to have a little bit more of a sense of humor than Migi does. A little less robotic as well. And I don't know if that has anything to do with, like, the way he was raised. But otherwise, the things that were also good about this episode is they finally finished up the whole Shinichi and his mom story. That's been completely wrapped up. And he was also the one who had the final fight, but Uda helped out as well. And that was really well animated. Just that and the battle with Uda as well I thought was really clever. And I still love the prospect that Shinichi himself is actually getting superpowers. And the timing could not be better because obviously Migi has to take these naps every once in a while. So at least if he does have to go away, he'll still be able to form a weapon of some kind and combine that with his super ability to see things really quickly, move real quickly, and overall just be a badass. The animation this week was really good, especially during the Parasyte scenes. All the action was really fantastic. The artwork, the backgrounds, everything looked good, especially that final shot where him and his father were hanging out by the sunset. It was just a really tops episode, introducing new characters, new concepts, and Shinichi is finally becoming the real hero of the series. I can't wait to see the next one. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 5 out of 5. I loved it. You should definitely check it out if you're following the anime series or if you're a fan of the original manga version. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And before you go, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Parasyte the Maxim. What did you think of the introduction of the new characters of Uda and his Parasyte? And what did you think of that final confrontation with Shinichi and his mother? Remember, if you have not subscribed to our channel, you can do that by clicking on the channel icon right up here. You guys can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.